Guys, it's John here, and I wanted to run through our week of NBA or NFL games. NBA is kind of on the mind, obviously, and I'll be going into the NBA in some detail probably in my next video. I don't just pump out what's like hot at the time. I think a lot of people like to do that. But we've been talking about this stuff on this channel for years. So me saying the NBA is rigged would at this point just be to get clicks. I wanted to go into our weekly games like normal, and I will go a little bit into the NBA. I've spoken with Tim Donahue. If you look at my original channel, that actually got ripped down, and then it took appealing, and then Google reversing the decision. Bunch of things happening. That channel's back up now. It's the same as this one. It's just National Sports Entertainment without NSC at the end. I had a lot of basketball videos on that channel. The very early ones going into Kobe and things of that nature. So, if you guys were interested, maybe seeing some other types of things that I've noticed in the NBA, you can certainly go over there and watch that. I put them on this channel too, but when that got shut down and I did this channel, I basically was more under the purpose of just trying to, and last week we failed abysmally, but under the purpose of trying to just help people beat Vegas, which, as you can see, is not that easy when you have players openly screwing the public, and that's why from the beginning my logic's always I try and bet the opposite. I'm not saying it always works, but you can see that the players certainly aren't helping us. We got creamed this week, I'll tell you. Hey, maybe the NFL got wind and they're like, hey, let's keep this week on the up and up, because it's like every favorite that should have won, and with the exception of the ridiculous Broncos comeback, and we could throw the Packers in with them. By the way, I had both of them like on separate parlays where the Broncos just need, or the Giants just needed to hold, and or so not even both, just and or the Cardinals needed to hold it, and I kind of saw how it was going to go down. But I will say this is a pretty interesting, coincidence. Zero traps this week. Like every single one of these results, if you were picking based off of like the better team and who should won, like if you had asked me, like it's a fair league. There's no scripting. You just pick the better team that should win these games. I probably get every one of these right, with the exception of like maybe one or two. So that is interesting. It makes me wonder if we're gonna get realistic results this week. I had the Jags. I think a lot of people thought that one looked fishy. I had the Saints covering the 3.5. I thought that looked fishy. The Jets, the pathetic Jets being a favorite, looked fishy. There was a lot in here that looked fishy. So yeah, the Falcons here in San Francisco is a 50-50. So it is very interesting to see. For like this is the first week that it's been this obvious. The Bengals, I guess, would be the only really upset. So the question is, this week, do we assume that they're gonna do the same? They see that these rumors are going around. Not rumors. They see that there's people being locked up. And it's not just the NBA. You got the entire country. It's technically a country of Sicily. Singing like birds, which is very interesting. When you got the whole mob snitching at the same time, something's going on. Like we're talking a lot of people. We're talking the Gambinos. We're talking a lot of families. We're talking the families that I thought weren't around anymore. So it's going to be very, very big, and I do wonder if there's going to be some kind of maybe like what are they called? Collective actions, I think, or class action, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. Let's get into the games. Dolphins Falcons here, 7.5 point favorites. So now I kind of have to look at it like I try and look at it anyway. Oh, by the way, I would have lost Thursday because again I thought it was a trap, and again the better team just annihilated the team that should have lost. So it's making me wonder: should we just go with the better teams this week? Like, should we really just pick this week, like NFL's not scripted? Because obviously I think it is, but If we're going based off of last week, if we're going based off of the Chargers result here, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so first game. So normally I would say this would be the line looks about right. The Dolphins are depleted. I would normally say probably Falcons win, but Dolphins find a way to go. I'm going to say Falcons cover. Realistically, there's no reason the Dolphins should even hang in this game. They're completely injury riddled. Falcons are at home. And yeah, this is a complete curve up video for me, which you might find funny because it's like we just found out sports. Like, I think this is confirmation. We have an active NBA coach, and that's just one guy, but he's a big name, right? Chauncey Billups. An active coach caught up in this stuff now. So we can no longer say, oh, it's just this washed player. It's just this guy who used to play. This is a big deal. So, we find out it's scripted, really. And I don't believe it's just the NBA. And now I'm picking based off the logic that it's 100% on the up and up. But I think it's because that they're going to be playing these games with as little shenanigans as possible, if they are smart. So anyway, Falcons cover. Jets, Bengals cover. In no way should the Jets ever. Actually, I wonder because I've been saying for a while now, like the Jets have been losing because Aaron Glenn has been coaching so pathetically bad, right? So are they going to continue that? Like after Billups, Jets get now he wasn't busted for bad coaching. I get that, but I mean you can argue if you look at his coaching that people can put two and two together. But Billups just gets busted, right? And now we have another coach here who people are like, what is up with this guy? He's coaching terribly. So my logic is actually it would be a horrible look for unless they're trying to scapegoat like individual players and coaches and not the league. In my opinion, it would be a horrible look if Aaron Glenn came out here and coached the way he's been coaching. It's just going to make people think, what the heck? Like this again, these guys they're doing it everywhere. So, with that being said, I'm basically trying to pick damage control for the NFL. If you guys haven't, figured that out by now, you know, like which of these games is like which of these results is going to make the NFL better and people that have question marks already, and we can throw them all in there. ESPN, NBA. Which of these results is going to have people with the least amount of questions? So anyway. While the Jets getting destroyed wouldn't be questioned, because of the way they've been losing, it's been because of Aaron Glenn and Fields selling and all these different things. I'm going to say that the Jets do cover this game, and I'm going to take them to actually win. I have two reasons for that. I'm going to take the Jets to win. The first being, I think it's some kind of damage control. Again, I don't think they're going to let Aaron Glenn come out here and do what he's been doing. I think people might catch on, especially with the NBA being hot right now. Now, the other reason I think the Bengals lose this game is I noticed, the AFC North is conveniently pathetic right now, which keeps teams like the Ravens in it, right? And if the Ravens are to win this week, they're 2-5. Bengals would be 3-5, and you got the Browns, but two, and then where are the Steelers? The Steelers are they on a bye week? 4-2. So our Steelers lost, and the Ravens are only a couple games out with Lamar back. So there's no way Lamar is going to get knocked out of the playoff picture right here, in my opinion. So all that being said, that's why I think a Jets win, and then we look at Ravens Bears. A Ravens win definitely makes sense. So, now the question comes down to the Bears cover. I think 100%. I think this is a close game. I think the Bears cover. I think the Ravens win. But again, it's going to be a game that I think is realistic. Something like, the Ravens win by 3 or 4 points, something like that. So yeah, I got the Ravens winning. I'm sorry, but I do have the Bears covering this game. I already hit Dolphins Falcons. I don't know how that was first before. All right, so now we're at a Bills Panthers and 7.5. Panthers have looked good this year. I'm gonna go back to the kind of the logic I've been seeing. I've been seeing a lot of bludgeonings since the raid of the NBA and others. So I'm just going to say the much more talented team is going to bludgeon the other one. So I'm going to say Bills win and Bills cover this 7.5. Niners Texans. I like the Texans here. I'll take them -1.5. I'll give that. That's fine. That's basically a 50-50. And you can argue, well, this is one of those traps, but this is certainly not like a crazy trap. You got Houston at home, against a backup quarterback. Niners, good record, but haven't been looking like they were. And Texans, I said this a lot of times. I don't think they're going to be much this year, but 3-4 staying in the hunt, and also because I think a lot of people are going to be taking the Niners in this event. I like the Texans in this game. Giants, Eagles. I have a feeling this might be a pretty decisive win for the Eagles. I I see what they're doing with Dart, and he's looking fine. Again, though, I really think we're going to see some blowouts. I think in a lot of these games where one team is significantly better than the other, I think it might just be a pounding. Might be even boring, but just for a week or two. They did this like a year or two in the playoffs. I remember when people were really like it was when the Super Bowl logo was matching up with the team's colors, and people pointed it out. And I swear for like a couple of weeks, it was like some very realistic results, and then they went back to normal. I feel like that's what they're doing in the NBA, NFL. Someone pointed out, like on TikTok, it's big now. Pick the over in every NBA because all these games are going over. All these players are afraid of selling and blowing a game on purpose and getting caught. So they're just balling. It's pretty funny. So I'm wondering if we see that in the NFL too, high scores. But anyway, so yeah, Texans. I think the Eagles win and cover. Browns, Patriots. I don't. This one's a harder one. I'm gonna say Patriots cover, just because like the Browns are a pretty pathetic team. They always are. For the Patriots to be getting a touchdown odds is pretty big. Now the Colts just got it, so it's not like teams that aren't mega teams can't get big spreads. But it's a big. It just again, it gives me a feeling this is going to be one of those wire to wire poundings. So I think we're going to see at least 4 or 5 of them this week. Well, we already saw one, I guess, and I would have had the Vikings because I thought it was a trap. So I always say afterward, like if I miss the game, I always point out who I would have taken. Um, if I would, if I got a video out. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. But anyway, on this Patriots one, yeah, I'm gonna say that's one of our blowouts. Now I love the Saints here. I did have a theory, and I still think he's going number one. I know Vegas doesn't have Arch going number one, but I have a feeling. But anyway, and maybe that's what happens. Maybe he doesn't go number one, and a team still gets him. But hey, Arch going to the Saints makes so much sense to me because his I think grandfather was played there. So like he's obviously not going to the Colts. Look at their record, right? And then there's other teams like that would make some sense. Maybe the Giants, but they got Dart. But I don't think the Saints are going to just be awful. And again, this is one of those traps that they can get away with because you have New Orleans at home, and the Bucks are pretty beat up to be quite honest. And I honestly think with the way that in a realistic league, I really do believe this. I don't think Baker's that good. I think he gets a lot of calls. I think things like that happen. I think he gets pushed. And then again, you have such a depleted receiving core that it would make sense that the Saints win this game anyway. So I kind of like the Saints anyway. And then from the narrative perspective, it keeps the Falcons and Bucks close for that division race. Bucks win here. Like certainly the Falcons lose, and the Bucks win, which just obviously that's not going to happen. But just say it did, it would almost kill the playoffs before we even are at mid-season. But I think the Falcons win, Bucks lose, so I'm going to go Saints here. Titans, Colts. Colts huge favorites here. And like I said, I believe we're going to see a few bludgeonings this week, and I think this will be one of them. Titans, they got some Pope, but I mean, they really they're not ready. Cam's still learning the playbook. They're just not a good team. So normally, of course, I'd be open to maybe it's a trap, but again, I think we're going to see a good old fashioned bludgeoning here. So Colts cover the 14.5. Cowboys, Broncos. Broncos just had that crazy comeback. At home, 3.5. So it's very similar to last week against the Giants. I think Giants were slightly bigger dogs. They were. The Giants were bigger dogs than this, but it's kind of similar. I think it makes sense. The Cowboys just look pretty good. 3-3-1. I don't think, again, I could be wrong. I just have a feeling the Cowboys are going to sneak this one. I think they're going to, outside of a few teams, I think they're going to try and keep, you got the Broncos and Colts. That would be two teams kind of running away in their divisions very early on. The Chargers are looking good, so the Broncos wouldn't really be running away. But again, I just think the Cowboys win makes a little more sense. So I'll go Cowboys straight up. Packers, Steelers, this is a hard one. My original theory coming into the year was the Packers were going to have a very good regular season. Not go too far in the playoffs. Because Parsons, all the hype. Like, once they got Parsons, at least I came to that determination. When I first looked at the Packers, they hadn't even got Parsons yet. But now it's interesting because you have Steelers, past versus present. And it seems like Rodgers has been like on this little revenge tour, right? After like just, being real pathetic for the Jets and, for 3 years of just looking really bad. Now he's looking really good, He's not being clowned. NBC game at home, as he beat his old team. And I know that's a very short club of like the players that have beaten every team. It might just be Brady at this point, or just players that have beaten their old team, whatever the case is. Maybe every team but their current team. I'd have to look into if beating the Packers would give Rodgers a win versus every team. I would imagine it would. I would imagine he's beaten every other team at some point. But anyway, I'm gonna go. My original theory was we're gonna get a typical 8-9 or 9-8 season from the Steelers, right? To me, that made sense because Tomlin never had a losing season. It keeps the suspense, and for Rodgers to give him his first losing season makes sense. And the more I think about it, 4-3 makes sense to go along with what I said. Ravens are 2-5 if they win. Bengals are either 3-5, 4-4, whatever. I think 3-5. You kind of need the Steelers to not be 5-2. So you know what? I'm gonna say that the Packers go ahead and cover this, win this game. This is such a stupid cover. If I'm playing this game, I'm not playing the cover. I'm either parlaying it with something goofy, like Josh Jacobs runs for 40 yards, something guaranteed, or Love throws for 1 touchdown, so just something to pump it up to get those 2.5 points back. Or I'm parlaying it or something, or just straight playing the money line and paying extra. I actually think that the Packers are going to win. I think the Steelers are going to cover this 2.5. Packers Steelers, if any game, feels like a 20-19 type of game. So yeah, I would not suggest laying the 2.5 here. I do think Green Bay wins, but I don't think they're going to cover. And again, of the divisions, Green Bay can win because 5-1-1. Okay, you have now the Vikings are trash. I said that from the beginning. But you got the Lions. Now they're on a bye week, I believe. And then you got the Bears, who are going to be maybe, I think, 4-3, but or 5-2. So the Packers winning, and you have wild cards, doesn't really eliminate other teams early on. Whereas like a Steelers win kind of eliminates the Ravens and maybe the Bengals. That's the whole reason I pick the way I do. But lately I've been also looking at, again, the stuff going on in the news. So yeah, I'm going to go Packers win. Steelers actually cover the 2.5 though. Commander-in-Chief. That's funny, right? The Commander-in-Chief is the one who just had those NBA guys arrested. So anyway, we have Daniels not playing. And again, I think it's going to be a pretty straightforward bludgeoning. Um, Although those guys were arrested in D.C., so we're not. They weren't arrested. The charges came from D.C. But I do wonder. But no, I think I don't think without Mariota they can justify on prime time having the Commanders hang here. Mahomes has looked too good. So if suddenly Mahomes just looked like trash, I don't think that would be very believable. So I think the Chiefs are going to, coming into this, I would have maybe set up trap. The Chiefs not not going to be that good this year. No one's going to pick the Commanders because their backups in, so Commanders easy. But again, with what's going on, I think the NFL and all these other leagues are going to tread very carefully with very unrealistic results, such as Mariota looking like, Steve Young, or in his case, I guess Joe Theismann would be the Commanders' best quarterback, maybe. But anyway, yeah. So I got the Chiefs not just winning, but beating the Commanders pretty bad here, and so yeah, that's it for the games. I'm trying to do my best to adapt as far as again, I don't think it's going to be ignored by whoever makes these calls, Goodell, the owners of the teams, that it's now, viral that the NBA is caught up in rigging games. Now, however deep, it's been proven to this extent, you can say, but that is what it is. You have NBA players, coaches active, and we know refs all rigging games. It's out in the open. The NFL's been accused of this. I don't think they're going to come out 2 days after this happened and have the Dolphins beat the Falcons and have the Panthers trounce Josh Allen. To me, that just doesn't make sense. So, this is why I'm picking this week the way I am. And I think we're going to have a very good week. This is a good time to be playing. It's actually the best time to be playing. I really should be just pumping out NBA videos left and right, and I probably will because someone pointed out we had like a bunch of overtime games. There's one. Maybe it was like the day before. Okay, so we did. We had so like these were the two games right after the bust, and I was thinking, why the heck would they do this? It makes it look so darn scripted. But I think they're less worried about it looking scripted, and they're more worried about, at least in this case, the NBA's case, the players that can play, and all four of these players, I mean, they've all won championships. So, well, outside of the Pacers, but they came very, very close. They all have stacked teams, right? So all of them looked amazing. So in the NBA going forward, what I'm going to be looking at is matchups like this. In a matchup like this, in the past, the role players might have gone nuts and Trae Young might have sold, right? Say, whatever the case may be. SGA. Now I think we could take it pretty realistically and say Trae Young's going to freaking cook in this game, So a parlay of Trae Young to get 40 and SGA to drop 40 himself, something like that may be way more in play than in before. So I'm going to be watching the props on the NBA because that's what got busted, really. It was props. It was NBA props. And we could look for changes, right? If suddenly, again, Donovan Mitchell's, back to averaging what he should be. Because a lot of times last year I picked him to get 30 and he didn't. And I'm like, of course, right? So I'm actually very excited about this, to see these guys and if suddenly we see an uptick in their numbers or a downtick, for the ones that maybe were doing better than they should. I expect more triple doubles out of Cade, if I'm being honest. I feel like he sold a few triple doubles. So yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting to cover the NBA, I won't lie. This Thunder Hawks game I'm really excited about just because Trae Young is a guy that, like, for a while I'm like, man, he's just a guy that if you know what game he's going to go off, you can get paid, right? Just because, his average is never crazy. It's like 26 points or something. So if you think he's going to drop 50, you're going to get paid. Or if you think he's going to do a triple-double or even something like a 30-10 type deal, you're going to get paid, especially if you think the Hawks are going to win. So yeah, I think Trae is a great guy for what's been going on. Obviously, players on the actual teams would be helpful too, right? So like, I think it was a guy on the Magic. Rozier was one of the ones who got Oh look, Trae Young scores. That's funny. Sometimes I swear they just read your mind. I didn't even realize it was the Hawks. So Trey did. He had a crazy comeback against, and that's what I'm saying. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this superstars, just being superstars. But I came here because the guy on the Magic was the one who got busted. So curious to see what the Magic's numbers look like. Oh, okay. I'm surprised to see Banchero didn't go off, but okay. So just pretty normal numbers. The Magic are one of those teams where they really don't have a guy that goes usually insane, and then the other one would be the Blazers. You know, I'm a Shadon Sharp guy. Since my literal very first video on my first channel was about how I thought Shadon Sharp was going to come out of nowhere and just really kill it. And all right, he did 17, and last year he did better. But yeah, you can watch that old channel for the NBA stuff. But yeah, this was the coach, obviously Billups, that got busted, and then they won the next game against the Warriors. They pounded them. Again, that kind of makes me think it's scripted, but maybe not. Maybe they were showing just how much Billups was selling, right? So that's basically it. Just kind of wanted to go into that. I'm noticing, yeah, a lot of higher scores and stuff, and yeah, these primetime games, this Thunderhawks, this Suns Nuggets, these are going to be fun because I really feel like a lot of these props, especially Kevin Durant, he's another one. This guy always gets into Twitter battles with people. Oh no, he's not on the Suns anymore. I forgot they traded him. But wherever Kevin Durant is, gets into Twitter. I think Rockets, right? Twitter battles all the time because he underproduces and stuff, and he's like, basically mocking the gamblers that lose money betting on him. So now that this happened, I do wonder if we see some pep in the step of old KD. So there's even been some jokes about that. So it should be interesting. So we'll be going into all that, and just wanted to cover the weekly schedule of the NFL, but I wanted to at least touch up on this too. And we'll do a whole video on this too because it's very fascinating, and I think this could be the most profitable NBA season yet. And I probably should have started sooner because we were killing it in the NBA every year. I mean, people were telling me just do all NBA because I do happen to pick NBA pretty well. So we'll do both, but I just wanted to kind of cover both. So take care.